Hello my lovelies, here's the process of moulding Happy Helen, and very soon I'll get into the process of demoulding her. So I use this hobby knife to cut the silicone that the mould is made out of. It's a long, slow process. I do it in small sections at a time, also trying to be careful not to accidentally cut my fingers. Now I'm just laying her down to make it a little bit easier for the angle. Unfortunately, this means that at times my hand will block the camera, but I stop and show you what I've done every so often as well. I've just removed the piece of clay that was helping holding her upside down for when I was making the mold, and I'm continuing to cut. It doesn't matter if I cut into the clay a little bit, because the clay gets thrown away afterwards anyhow. I've cut a straight line, and then a small zigzag, and then a straight line, and then some more zigzags. This helps for the mold to go back together much easier each time I pour a baby, because each time I pour a baby, I have to reseal the back of the mold. Now I'm putting pressure on the arms to break at the shoulder joint. It'll help me be able to get the clay out of the mold. It's a very difficult process and very hard on your hands. As you can see, I have my right thumb in a splint because of osteoarthritis, and my hands really don't like this part of the sculpting and molding process. As you can see, I've absolutely sped up these videos, and that's because it took hours to do this. I have to put a lot of pressure on the mold, but I can't tear it. I'm using the wire cutters here to cut the wire that's inside her limbs so that I can separate the arm from the upper arm, so lower arm, upper arm. I will end up doing the same with the legs as well. Now I'm using the wire cutters again, but on the other arm. Again, it just helps to be able to get the arms out of the mold. Once I pour silicone in instead of having clay inside, it's much easier to remove because silicone is super flexible, whereas clay is definitely not flexible. Now I'm getting her into a good position so that I can apply pressure to her hips, because I need to break the clay at the hips as well, for the same reason that I did with the arms. Now I can go ahead and remove Happy Helen's head and torso from the mold, which will only leave parts of the arms and legs inside. Again, this is quite a tough process. I have to be able to separate where I've broken the clay enough with the mold to use the wire cutters. Another thing I need to be careful of is the edges of the clay can be quite sharp, and I have in the past cut my fingers on it. Here you go, her foot has snapped off at her ankle, which has made it easier to get the rest of the leg out. The foot, however, is going to be a pain to get out. So I'm working on the other leg, and I believe it's broken just below the knee at this point. So I'll use the wire cutters to snip it. And then her entire torso and most of her legs is out of the mold. Now I can work on the remnants that are in there. I'm starting with the legs because they're generally a little bit easier for me to get out. I think partly it's because they're a bit fatter and easier for me to grip. I've just gotten some dish soap to put on the mold because it'll help the outside of the mold be a bit slippery against itself. I did stop before putting my hand inside the mold and went and washed all the soap off my hand, so it will not interfere with the silicone version of the baby. You've got to try to keep the inside of the mold as clean as possible and free of contaminants. See how much easier that rest of the leg is coming out because I was able to fold the mold back over itself. Thank you very much, dish soap. Look, it's a foot! And she didn't even lose toes. I was so happy when that foot came out, and then I realized just how much work it's gonna be to put the leg back, well, right side in, I guess, because it's currently inside out. And there you go, an empty foot and leg. I like to give it a good old squish just to make sure there's nothing in there, even though I could see that, the foot was intact. Now I'm using more dishwashing liquid on the other leg for the exact same purpose. I've managed to get the foot slowly moving down into the ankle and then up the leg. Just squeezing, squeezing, squeezing. This is so hard on my hands, guys. I was in quite a bit of pain afterwards, but it's all worth it. And look, another foot. And now I'm going to start working on getting the arms out. Put the dishwashing liquid on and start turning inside out. It's not super easy. If I had made the mold thinner, would have been easier, but then the mold will tear easier. Hello, my lovelies. So I had to stop. Hello, Maisie. She's just down there. I had to stop filming yesterday, taking Happy Helen out of her mold because I had a visitor arrive. And then when I sat back down to get the rest of her out of the mold, I set the camera up. I forgot to press record. But, I mean, come on, we expect that of me now, don't we? Anyhow, so with the hands, I had trouble getting them out because, I mean, you can see here, the wrist is narrower than the hands, which is fairly normal for a human. Can I assist you? For a human. I mean, my wrist is narrower than my hand. So that made it hard for me to get the hands out. What are you doing? Your chair. Here you go. It's exactly what she wants. Oh, good girl. By the way, before I started filming, she was up on her spot on the window. But she knows I'm filming, so she's like, Mummy, what about me? What about me? Such a sweetie. So anyway, back to the important stuff. Not that Maisie's not important, of course. So in the end, I unfortunately had to cut the mold to get the hand out. So it's kind of a T-shaped cut. What is going on with my camera, guys? It's a T-shaped cut, I guess, which I will need to repair. The good thing about the hand is you can't even see where the cut is if you just let it go, which means I should be able to seal it back up without any issues. Same on the other side. And then on this side of her, it did tear a little bit at the bottom of the mold. So I am not going to film me doing this, but I am going to seal the mold at the back and at the hands. And then once that is set, I'll go over certain parts with more of the rebound, which is what I made the mold from, just to reinforce certain parts. But I will walk you guys through it. At each stage, I'll basically show you what I've done. So to seal, whoopsies, dropping bits of the baby. To seal the mold, I put a silicone adhesive on one side of the seam in here. So that instead of just putting it on the back, like putting it together and then just putting it on top, to help create less of a seam on the poured baby, I'm going to put it on this part as well. So it's going to take time. It's going to take multiple steps, but that's okay. This is not a quick process. Nothing about silicone production is quick, and that's okay. One of the hardest things for me about sculpting my own babies is this, that when they come out of the mold, they're in so many pieces. I mean, we've got feet. I believe this was a arm, possibly. I think this might have been part of a leg. A wrist. A hand, now with no fingers. What was this? A shoulder joint. Hey, Mama. And then, of course, we have Happy Helen, who... Oh, my poor baby. Ow, Maisie, no scratchy scratch. I'm working, babe. I'm working. One thing I've also noticed is the clay, hang on, it changes color after being, like, making the mold from it. So it's gone from a nice peachy color to this ghostly white color. I just find it fascinating. But yeah, so Happy Helen, my poor clay baby is all broken. It's sad, guys. I worked so hard on her, and you know, like, as a sculptor, you know your sculpt is gonna get destroyed. But I mean, her head mostly survived. Mostly, she got some cracks, but overall, pretty good. I will keep you updated with what I'm doing. As I said, I'm about to seal this, so putting silicone on the edges. And then I will come back each step and show you. I'm back. That annoying noise is this little trio of fans, just so you know. So I've added silicone on the inside edges like I said I would, and then a little bit on the outside, just a thin layer, and that's pretty much set. This tape, it's just masking tape. It doesn't stick to the silicone, but it sticks to itself, so it still works. And it just helps hold it together as it's setting. So I'm now going to mix up a little bit of the Rebound to strengthen her bottom and her hands. And then once I've done that and it's set, which doesn't take that long really, I will reinforce the entire seam just with a silicone adhesive, because after I pour a baby, I need to continuously cut that open and then reseal it. And you get the point. So that's where we're at. I reckon by possibly tomorrow, I'll be ready to do the first pour of little Happy Helen. Now that she was set, I've just gone over the seam line with silicone adhesive just to thicken it up a little, all the way down to the repair patch. I'll wait for that to set. Well, that has come apart a little bit, but that's okay. I'll wait for that to set, and then I'll be hopefully up to a point where I can pour some water in there for two reasons. One, to get any little bits of clay out that is still in there, but also to be able to measure how much water goes in the mold, so I know how many mils or probably liters at this stage for her I'll need to mix up to pour her tomorrow. So I need to do that. The mold needs to dry out after testing with water, and then once the mold dries, I can add the mold release, and then that has to set for 2 hours, and then I can add the silicone. I'm super excited because by, hopefully this time, and it's around 6 p.m. So hopefully around this time tomorrow night, I should be able to take a silicone Happy Helen out of the mold. In case you're wondering, I'm sitting in my wheelchair at the moment because I'm giving my legs a little break from my orthotics. I have a small pressure mark here, so I'm just giving them a break. And my seatbelt doesn't fit anymore. Maisie is in here. She doesn't like it when I use the wheelchair because, well, if you can see by the way her paws are very much underneath her and her tail is way tucked up. Yeah, I've accidentally run over paws. I swear I love her. I hope you've enjoyed this process. I find that with every baby I do, because I haven't sculpted and then molded many, but I've done a few now, and every single time I learn something new. So this time I made a small mistake with sculpting the hands and the wrists, and I now know for next time how to avoid having to cut open the hands. So it's really just a learning curve every single time you learn something new. I'm happy with my end result of the mold, and I look forward to introducing Happy Helen to you in silicone.